Welcome to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Discover the personal drive, professional journeys, and business strategies that have made a real impact. It's success from the inside out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're chatting with Greg Kautz. Greg is a seasoned finance and technology executive with over 40 years of experience, primarily in the energy industry. As CEO and co-founder of Black Owl Systems, Greg brings extensive expertise in ERP systems, finance, mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance, IT, and strategic planning. His career now focuses on leading a Fintech startup specializing in complex accounting software alongside with his son, Derek. So Greg, first of all, welcome to the show. And do you want to start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you're working on?
Well, thank you, Matt, for having me on my show. So as you mentioned, I've taken a career change and started a fintech software company with my son. It's an opportunity you only get once in a lifetime to do, and many people never have that opportunity to work with your children. And so my son Derek saw an opportunity in the world of lease accounting. And for those people who don't know what that is for financial reporting. I like to say for large corporations. In Canada, it would be public or large private in Canada. In the US, it's public and private companies. And what we do is we're an add-on to an accounting system. So think of your QuickBooks or your SAP, we're an add-on to that. And what we do to that is when it removes off-balance sheet financing that used to happen. So the stock regulators in 2019 said, we've got to take this off-balance sheet financing, which is known as leases, and put it back on the financial statements. So what it does is if you have a lease payment where normally you'd just be expensing it, now it capitalizes it and puts it onto the balance sheet as an asset and liability, and you write it off as if you would have purchased the equipment. So, sounds easy enough, but there's a lot of complications when you have any rules and regulations. It's a thick playbook of requirements, and it's just not logical to what a core accounting system does. So there's other systems on the market. My son Derek had the experience of working with them, and he was starting to move his professional accounting career towards the system side as well. And so he saw an opportunity, and here we are today.
Yeah, that was a big shift in 2019. I remember there's a lot of people that weren't all that happy about it, particularly in the accounting space there. But can you maybe dive into a little bit more on why they closed that loophole, like what companies were really doing with it before?
Well, so what a lot of companies, some people say was a result of Enron. Sometimes it was a result of, airlines. So you think of best example I could think of as an airline right now. They lease a lot of their jets from Boeing. And so they've got billions of dollars of leases, but they never show up on a balance sheet. So if you're comparing an airline that owns all their planes and one that leases, your balance sheet is going to look different. One's going to have a lot of assets and liabilities. One's going to have nothing. It's just the net income numbers are going to be different, or at the end of the day, very close to what they are. So what was happening is for not the large global companies, but from small to mid-size, you were going into some of the bankers and you're getting more financing because you leased your assets versus somebody who acquired them. So with the bank covenants, there was a lot of things that were happening in the industry, and it was the stock regulators that came and said, no, we've got to change this and normalize it. And, there's still a lot of people don't like it today. When it happened, before I started the company, I would talk to people in the industry and they say, oh, I'm going to sell all my assets. I'm going to buy all my leases out so I don't have to follow these accounting rules. They're too complex. That's how complicated and how it scared people in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I definitely remember as that was all going through and talking to some people, like you said, kind of in the mid to large companies, it really didn't affect the $1 million revenue mom and pop shops. It really didn't have a big impact on them. But for those larger entities, it certainly was a big shakeup in how they had to report out to shareholders, or how they're just handling their internal accounting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What is your typical clientele then? So you talked about, maybe looking at those public companies, but what types of industries are you really focused in, or is it pretty broad?
It's very broad. And, from a marketing perspective, you're not supposed to do that. You break your ideal rule where you're supposed to, your ideal customer profile, you narrowly focus. And we follow that for our direct marketing as we're a
Mhm.
growing company. But it's for any company that has a lot of leases. In Canada, it would be primarily public companies. In the US, it would be both public and private. So we're looking at manufacturing, construction, as I mentioned, aviation, a lot of oil and gas, service companies, utilities. And we've got a variety of clients. We've got a Fortune 500 oil and gas company, all the way down to, a small environmental company. We have a manufacturing, we have restaurant chain. So quite a variety of customers.
Interesting. Yeah. Oil and gas up in Canada as well, I would assume is a big industry to be in.
Yes, yeah, and US, yes,
And
yeah.
in the US. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's global, and we're talking to a lot of global enterprises now as well as their name
Yeah.
gets out, and we're starting to engage with. We've talked to people in the UK, Czech Republic, um, company in Africa even, and Dubai. So it's wide reaching.
Interesting. What have been some of the challenges and as you guys started, you kind of come into this COVID phase as well, and I'm sure that shook some things up. So what have been some of the challenges along the way?
Well, you mentioned it. We started during when COVID just hit.
Yeah.
So, that's the time, we had our plan. We were starting to raise a bit of money. We are starting to do software development. So it was good from a development perspective. But meeting new clients and getting out, where a lot of times, you being an accountant as well, there's associations, you can network. And, our focus was going to be Alberta first, then, Canada, then the United States. And it was just difficult because, people were used to seeing your vendors in person,
Yeah.
riding the elevator down with them.
Mhm.
That opportunity was gone. And there's a lot of uncertainty during COVID. So a lot of people weren't making decisions, even though there was a business case with a high ROI to replace their manual systems or their existing lease accounting solutions. People just didn't want to make those decisions because of that uncertainty. And,
Yeah.
it didn't last a year, it lasted a few years.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, well, and I think even in the best of times, like when it's not COVID, it's a struggle sometimes to get people to change a system. I look at some of the big ERPs that are out there, and they might cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, on large organizations, could cost millions of dollars to actually go through and do these implementations. And I think sometimes people are a little bit afraid, not even of the money side, because the ROI is generally there, but that is a big change to go through. So, from your guys' perspective, being an add-on to those existing systems? Have you seen um, maybe better success in that area than if it was standalone?
No, it's still the same, because we're dealing with finance people, accountants, CFOs, controllers, and they do the justifications just like we would. And so, they're probably, I'm not going to say a tougher sell, but, there's more due diligence happening. So there's a
Mhm.
longer cycle time. And, one of the other challenges that we face when we are in a sales cycle is quarter end. So, we'll get the interest, we'll get the excitement, we'll get the demo, and
Mhm.
then quarter end comes in, they shut down for a quarter, then they or a month, then they re-engage. So there's always that day-to-day accounting is priority one, uh, new system priority two.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for those that aren't familiar, I'm sure most people know accounting is quite cyclical. You've got month ends, which generally, I mean, depending on the size of the company, might be a few days to a couple weeks to get
Right.
done. And then you've got your quarter ends, which might be again a couple weeks up to a month. And then you got your year end, which might be 2 to 3 months
Yeah,
kind of thing. So it's
exactly.
very, very cyclical. You get very busy at those times. So that makes a lot of sense. Uh, Working with your son in the business, you talked about that a little bit. What's that been like, and maybe what have some of the pros of that been, and what are some of the challenges that you faced there?
So it's an opportunity to work with, a different generation, fresh ideas, I don't know if it's a pro or con. One of the things I tell a lot of people is, Derek's been the most honest employee or co-worker I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
He doesn't hesitate in not saying something, and it sort of catches you off guard. No, I disagree. No, go back and do this. I've been challenged more to no, try this again or do something different. Where before, when you're in different organizations, your staff are less likelihood to say sometimes what they're thinking, and so it's actually a fresh approach to working with somebody within your family. Now, there's always people saying, well, nepotism and all, not in our, it's definitely not, as I told somebody, it's I'm working for him in the company,
Yeah.
that's what we wanted. That's what we
Yeah.
set it up
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Can you go maybe into your background and what got you into all of this? Like I know you've got a lot of experience in the oil and gas or the energy sector. Can you kind of give us that background there?
Yeah, well, I started out my career in the tax department. So I spent,
Oh,
Revenue
sorry about
Canada.
that.
Yeah, and it was a good foundation. I credit my as core accounting to the foundation I had, and everyone had a different experience working with the tax department. I had a lot of complex files, complex audits. I ended up being in special investigations doing forensic accounting, so and criminal prosecution. So I've got what I say a very strong core accounting. Then I got into the internal audit that brought me through to a few oil and gas companies, and when I then started getting into the strategic planning and the business advisory side within the oil companies. And that then I wanted to do something core accounting. So I got a CFO role with an engineering company. And I did that for years and then
Mhm.
had an opportunity to go out and do consulting, and which was going to be my retirement plan. I was thinking, well, always when I retire, I'll do some consulting. Well, I did it a little earlier in my career and I enjoyed it, and I did that for almost 20 years doing that. And so that space was working with other CFOs, a lot in the ERP implementations, finance transformation, took a few interim finance executive roles for clients during that period of time. And during that, I did one startup, software startup in barcoding and RFID. And,
Oh,
we had an exit out of that. And, that original team that built it was the ones who built the prototype. And some of them are still supporting Black Owl today. So,
wow. Oh, that's very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Um, what do you think from kind of throughout your career and now moving into that fintech space? What do you think some of the skills that you have are that have helped you along the way and helped you be successful?
I think one of the biggest thing is the variety I've had in my career. It hasn't been the traditional accounting role, and I credit that to a lot of the audit work, the internal audit, where some of the companies I was with had a diverse portfolio of entities, businesses. So I got to audit those, see how they worked. So I met a lot of people. It wasn't just dealing with accountants all the time. It was engineers, operations, salespeople, understanding their business processes. So I attribute a lot of my career to understanding business processes, the controls and risks, how it works. And that's what led me to doing a lot of system implementations because I viewed it as a process. I could see the impacts, the risks, and that's what I would do. So it was getting that variety in my career, I think that helped. And and anyone else, in the accounting profession or any profession is step out of the box sometimes and take something different that you think, well, it'll be too easy or too hard. Be surprised what you could bring to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say as a stereotype that accountants aren't necessarily the most agile or the most open to change, but I do think that is shifting a bit. But yeah, definitely, if you can get that breadth of experience and working in a bunch of industries or even volunteering, right? You can get a lot of experience volunteering. I think it helps give that well-rounded approach where you understand a business more than just the numbers side of
Oh,
it.
exactly. Like yourself, you're a CPA in real estate, so you went outside that box.
Yes. Yeah. So got away from the debits and credits is what I tell people.
Yeah. Well, and I ended up back in the debits and credits.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What type of investment do you as a company have to do to continually keep your software at the leading edge, or is it something where it's kind of, the core of it is there, so now it's just tweaking along the way?
Well, the core was, or the key was having a modern technology stack when we built it. So it was using, from the database to the development tools. We host it in Amazon, and they've got great tools to support and monitor your tech stack that you're using. And then it's always, keeping up to date. There's refresh, there's
Mm.
new ideas. As we get more clients using it with different ideas, we're always enhancing and tweaking some of the calculations, adding new features. And the same happens on the technology side. New tools come out, and it's just having a good technical team who understand what's there,
Mhm.
working with it and saying, okay, we want to change this and update this. And so it's not stagnant, but you're not changing because what's the key is we've got a financial accounting information, so we can't go changing the database structure,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's got to be core, but how it works and the performance, that's always being tweaked. And
Okay.
we're always looking for ways to optimize that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Um, Calgary seems to have, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you don't necessarily agree, but over the last decade in particular, really a fintech boom, I would call it, where there's a lot of companies that are coming out of the Calgary area.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. In Calgary, they have a organization called Platform Calgary, where they've got
Mhm.
a City of Calgary building where it's sort of a tech hub. Alberta Innovates has a lot to credit for that, offering grants, support, advisors. They've been a great partner of us. So there's been a huge opportunity in Calgary and Alberta across um, with those programs. And I meet so many people, like-minded startups with so many creative ideas, and they're marketing their products across the world. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What advice maybe would you have for some of those fintech startups or somebody really looking to just get into that startup phase?
I think the advice would be go try to find some people who've done a journey in it that's not a similar type of piece of software and talk to those people. As I said, we started during COVID, so it was very doors were locked, and the opportunities weren't there until you started getting associated with these organizations. That's where it happened. But anyone else thinking of doing that is reach out to myself. I'm glad to help with that, but reach out to other people who have done the software services or technology, somebody else who's done the startup. Everyone's story is different, but everyone has such great ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, that's great. That's great. In terms of you and the organization, what's on the horizon for you guys?
It's just to continue to grow. It's grow. We've got some ideas for some new product lines coming because we're not just going to do lease accounting. There's a few other things in the world of complex accounting we want to do. And it's just to continue to grow from the small clients to the large enterprises, and give them the best product there is, and then bring out some things to create some new market opportunities.
That's great. And you're looking at things from North America specific right now and trying to get into the international side, or what does that international
Our
push look like?
Our focus for our outbound marketing is primarily North America, but we are with the internet and SEO with your web pages. We are getting a lot of more inquiries from international.
Hmm.
So definitely Canada and the rest of the world follow the IFRS,
Yeah,
International Financial Reporting Standards. And so the accounting is the same. The language may be different, but a lot of companies um, or countries conduct business in English. I was talking to
great.
some people from Nigeria a few weeks ago, and their country's prime language was English, which sort of shocked me. But
Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. And you had mentioned it there, what IFRS is. And for those that don't know, it's accounting globally has this common set of rules. Not everybody has to follow them. It's kind of depending on the company size, and not every country is part of that. But we've got this common set of rules that say this is how we have to go about accounting for things. So it makes it easier for, maybe not easier is the right word, but better for a company like you to be able to go global with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But our prime focus is United States and Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what about for yourself personally? What's on the horizon for you? Are you enjoying what you're doing, it sounds like?
I am. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's as we grow, I'll shift some responsibilities off to other people, but anticipate staying involved for quite a few more years. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, it seems like you have the passion for it. I'm sure it's quite rewarding every day being able to work with your son. And again, there's probably some challenges there with that, but
Yeah.
probably a pretty cool opportunity to be able to do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Greg, if somebody wanted to learn more about the product, learn more about you, connect with you, where would they go for that?
Well, the best thing is going to our website, blackowlsystems.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn and you'll post my name, how to spell Kautz,
Yes.
on there. And just reach out either those two ways and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. Well, certainly appreciate your time today on the podcast. Wish you guys the best of luck moving forward and look forward to hear the success.
Okay, thank you very much.
You've been listening to Beyond Wealth, Success Unscripted with Matt Calnan. Want to be our next guest? Visit beyondwealthpodcast.ca/guest. See you on the next episode.